Welcome back, guys. Today we are working on a floor for the 46. Working our way back, we are now inside the cab and I need a floor to stand on. So this was the existing piece of the floor that I cut the middle out to make room for the transmission. And with some use of cardboard, I've kind of designed myself a transmission tunnel. Basically along the lines of that. Trying to keep it simple. Some guys like to do a rounded one, which that looks good. I'm just going to do a simple square bends. And I was thinking of trying to reuse this, but it is a little shot. I'd have to strip all the rust off of it. I'd have to weld in these holes. It does have some bends and cracks and stuff in it, and it's somewhat pitted on the bottom side. I thought it would save me a little bit of work if I reused it, but after looking at it long enough, I feel like using some new sheet metal, I can just build a new floor faster and have a nicer end result than trying to use the original. So, to make this floor, I'm starting with the tunnel and just using cardboard and taking my time, measuring, using tape for my joints. This is what I've come up with. Now I've already transferred this to a piece of steel. I'm actually using fairly thick sheet metal. It's a little thicker than 1/8 of an inch. Sorry, a 1/16 of an inch. That's not 1/8 inch. It's a little thicker than 1/16 of an inch. Which the heavier gauge you go, the harder it is to bend. I don't have a metal brake. I don't have a press. I don't have anything like that. What I do have is a vise. I'm using a couple pieces of angle iron. Usually, like in the past, I've used heavier steel than this. This is all the angle iron I have left. It'll work for what we're doing. I want to put some nice crisp bends in this steel. I'm going to use the same process I did for this back when I put this piece in to make room for the drive shaft. These are nice clean bends that I was able to put in it. Same gauge steel there too. So I'm going to show you guys how I did it. I have a piece of scrap steel here, and what I do is I use my grinder and I do a little relief cut. Not very deep. I don't know if you can kind of tell how deep I go. Maybe 25% of the thickness. See that? Basically, you're just giving it a weak spot. So when you go to bend it, that's the spot it's going to bend at. If you try without it, you tend to get a larger rounded bend instead of a nice crisp bend. So by laying this on there, I cut it out, but what I also did was I gave it this extra bit around the outside. And what I'm going to do is those are going to get bent over, similar to what I did here when I built these pieces. I bent over the tops. Gives me something to weld against, a little nicer. If I can get pieces to overlap, it's just a nicer fit. So I'm going to show you how I bend this, and there's two ways you can bend this and you get two different results. Basically, it's whatever you prefer. So the reason why I use the angle iron and not just the vise, I mean for this piece I could just use the vise, but the corner of the angle iron is a lot cleaner than my vise is. My vise is a little beat up. And usually I'm bending a piece wider than what my vise is. It's only a 4-inch vise. And I want to be able to clamp the whole piece of sheet metal. But I'm just giving you an example right now of how I bend it. So given it's not a real brake, you know, it might not turn out perfect, but I scored the same side here. Like I put a score here and a score there, but I bent it a different way for both of them. So you can either end up with the cut mark on the outside or the cut marks on the inside. So what you're left with is a smooth outside to your bend. So depending on what you want to see, whether you want to see the rough cut mark on the outside or you put the cut mark on the inside of your bend so you don't see it, it's up to you. I personally prefer to put the cut mark on the inside just so it's not visible. You know, and that's what I did here. Cut mark is on the inside, so it's just a smooth, nice outside corner. Right? Because when you bend it in, you don't see the cut mark if it's on the inside. So when I drew my lines here, right, these are the two bends I have to put in this piece. This bend and this bend. I'm gonna score the side that I drew my line on. So I'm gonna score here, but then on the back side, these wings that I have to bend over the opposite way, I'm gonna score the opposite side. So when you go to score this, make sure you're using the most dangerous grinder you got. The one with no guard and where the on-off switch no longer works. So as soon as you plug it in, it's going. All right, now that I've got it all scored, I'm just gonna drop it in my vise. Take your time lining it up. You want to make sure that your score mark is just above the angle iron. And then if you're doing a wider piece like this, you're going to have to use vice grips or C-clamp or something just to pinch everything nice and tight together. Obviously, because this isn't a legit brake, it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to get pretty close. And when I scored these flaps that I plan on bending over, one of the reasons why I'm using these little flaps, bending something like this over, it's hard to keep it straight, and you'll see there's a little bit of deviation, right? It's not perfectly flat anymore. But once I bend this up, it's going to give a nice crisp straight edge right here, and it'll make everything true again. But I mean, that bend there, that's a pretty decent bend. You might surprise some people when you tell them that you did your vise in your garage. I don't care what anyone says, that looks like it was built in a fab shop. That turned out great. Okay, time for its initial test fit. Just have to put the camera down for a second so I can get the thing sitting in there right. I do have a little bit of trimming I have to do. I have to get the back to come down more. So I have to trim off the end of this a bit. And up front, I got some trimming to do around here to get the front to come down a bit. Because right now, this lip is higher than where the floor is going to be sitting over here. So the whole tunnel is a little higher than it should be, because this I had intended to sit down right beside this lip. So I got a little bit of trimming to do, which I expected. So I'm gonna mark it, cut them off, set it back in here, and see how close we get. All right, got it fit, got it all trimmed out, and basically it sits right like that. So I'm gonna get this thing tacked in so it doesn't move around. As soon as I let go, it wants to drop down a bit. And then I can start making my floor pans on each side. And I might just take this guy here, cut the middle off, and this is pretty much this whole flat piece on the bottom. And then I can just use I'm gonna trace on cardboard and then add this piece up here. And we'll start cutting the floor pans out. Alright, using the same practices I used for the tunnel, I was able to make both my floor pans. And they're not welded in yet. That I will do another day. I gave these guys the same bent over edge just for some added strength, because the way this floor is set up is there's nothing that the side of this ties into. It just stops right here. So when my foot's pushing on, I don't want it to bend up over the ears, so I put I just put an edge bent down on it. Same thing with where the floor stops here. And I did that to both sides. So I am going to weld it all in solid and then seam seal it. If you've never used seam seal before, this is the brand I have, but not much to it. But I did all this with just a vise, some angle iron, a very sketchy grinder, and that's about it. Like, I don't need a brake to bend sheet metal. Kind of just use what you got, right? Couple vice grips, C-clamps if you have them, whatever. Clamp it all down, score it, bend it. Done. That's it for this video. Now that I have a floor, I can put something on it. I'm going to be mounting my seats. I got to mount my steering column. That's why I haven't welded this in yet, because I will have to take this out and I got to figure out how I'm going to bring my steering column through the floor and mount that. But yeah, we're done. Done for today. Garage is dirty. It's full of smoke. I need to clean it out. And yeah, I'm done for today. We'll see you next time.